Dark turn in Canadian politics. Brian Lilley reveals explosive update, July 29, 2025. Canada is in the middle of a political reckoning that few saw coming. Just 3 months after the snap federal election that elevated Mark Carney to the office of Prime Minister, political commentator Brian Lilley is sounding the alarm on what he's calling a dark turn in Canadian politics. His explosive July 29th update is more than political gossip. It's a raw and emotional snapshot of a country on edge. The tone across provinces has shifted from guarded optimism to disillusionment. The promises made in April now feel distant, and Lilley's update captures the frustration simmering under the surface as Canadians begin to realize that their expectations may have been misplaced. Mark Carney's campaign was bold, even aggressive. He promised strong leadership, fiscal responsibility, and an end to the chaotic management style many associated with the Trudeau years. For a country that had grown weary of half measures, his no-nonsense, economically literate image felt like a breath of fresh air. He leaned heavily into his experience as a global financial leader, telling Canadians he would not be pushed around by foreign powers or internal special interests. But as Lilley reveals, that confidence appears to have given way to a very different kind of leadership, one that prioritizes diplomacy and compromise over conviction. It's a stark reversal, and it's shaking people's faith in the direction of the country. Carney's transition from campaign trail firebrand to cautious prime minister has not gone unnoticed. Lilley reports that many of Carney's supporters are beginning to feel that they were sold a version of him that no longer exists. The decisive, elbows-up politician who was supposed to defend Canadian interests seems to have been replaced with someone more concerned with appeasing international voices than protecting domestic ones. Trade negotiations that were supposed to be firm are now secretive and, according to insiders, increasingly conciliatory. Where Carney once talked tough about standing up to U.S. pressure, he's now being criticized for giving ground behind closed doors. The shift has left many Canadians, especially those in resource-rich regions like Alberta, feeling betrayed. They were counting on a leader who would defend the energy sector with clarity and strength. Instead, they're watching as the Prime Minister signals openness to policy compromises that could impact oil and gas production. In Lilley's report, Alberta workers are quoted expressing deep frustration, saying that Carney's promises of protection now feel hollow. Similar sentiments are echoing in rural Ontario, where small business owners hoped for regulatory relief that now seems indefinitely delayed. These aren't fringe concerns, they come from the very people who gave Carney the mandate he now holds. But the frustration goes deeper than policy. It's about tone, character, and trust. Carney's sharp, confident voice during the campaign was what gave him an edge over both Poilievre and Singh. He spoke like a man with a plan and a spine. Now, Canadians are watching him shift into careful, polished language, avoiding bold positions and offering vague reassurances. To many, it feels like the mask is slipping. Lilley highlights how this change has created a disconnect between Carney and voters. It's not that Canadians expected a perfect leader, but they expected one who wouldn't flinch so soon after winning. Still, not everyone sees this transformation as a betrayal. Some Liberals argue that Carney is simply adapting to the immense pressure of governing during a volatile global moment. They say his diplomatic approach is not weakness, but wisdom. After all, governing is different from campaigning. And with economic uncertainty, trade tensions, and political instability in the U.S., these supporters believe Carney is making necessary adjustments. He's not backing down, they claim he's being smart. But even they admit, quietly, that the optics are troubling. When bold promises turn into soft policy, even a smart move can look like surrender. Perhaps the most alarming part of Lilley's report is what's happening behind the scenes in Ottawa. According to his sources, not all Liberal MPs are on board with Carney's direction. Some are growing restless, concerned that their own re-election chances are being damaged by the Prime Minister's pivot. The sense of urgency is growing. There are rumblings of dissent within caucus, quiet conversations about lost momentum, about the gap between what was promised and what's being delivered. It's not yet a rebellion, but it's a sign of deepening cracks in the party's foundation. And those cracks are beginning to show. Meanwhile, the Conservative opposition is regaining steam. Even though Pierre Poilievre lost his seat in the April election, he stayed front and center in the political discourse. With a by-election in Battle River, Crowfoot just weeks away, Poilievre is staging what could be a powerful political comeback. Lilley reports that conservatives are sharpening their message, using Carney's shift as Exhibit A in their case that the Liberals cannot be trusted. They're doubling down on language that evokes strength, clarity, and national pride, everything Carney was supposed to represent and now, critics argue, no longer does. For ordinary Canadians, this isn't just political theater. It's about real life. It's about rent they can't afford, groceries that cost more each week, and a healthcare system stretched to its limits. It's about watching your Prime Minister promise to fight for you, only to turn around and seem more concerned with UN goals or cross-border optics. Lilley's update gives voice to this emotional fatigue. Canadians are not just skeptical, they're hurt. When a leader changes tone so quickly, it doesn't feel like strategy. It feels like deception. And that's where the sense of betrayal becomes personal. There's a lingering danger here that goes beyond partisanship. If Canadians continue to lose faith in the people they elect, democracy suffers. The erosion of trust leads to apathy, and apathy leads to division. That's what makes this dark turn so significant. It's not just about Carney. It's about what Canadians now expect or no longer expect from their leaders. Lilley doesn't call for outrage. He calls for vigilance. He reminds viewers that leadership is not just a campaign slogan or a polished speech. It's a promise, and breaking that promise comes at a cost. In the end, this update is not just an update about policy shifts or insider gossip. It's about a broken connection between leader and people. Carney still has time to course correct, but the clock is ticking. If he doesn't return to the bold, principled leadership that got him elected, he risks becoming just another figure who said the right things, then faded into cautious mediocrity. Canadians didn't vote for a manager. They voted for a fighter. Whether Carney can still be that leader remains to be seen. With the next session of Parliament approaching, the tone Carney sets in the coming weeks could define not just his government, but the next decade of Canadian politics. The emotional reaction to Lilley's update is not simply partisan outrage. It's a country asking whether its leaders still see them, still hear them, still remember the promises made in exchange for their trust. The question now isn't whether there's been a dark turn. It's whether there's a way back from it.